Good evening, Free Enterprise fans around the world, and welcome to another fantastic matchup in the Adamant Cup between Xenocat and Saradin. My name is Possumorpheus, and I am joined by the first time in the commentary booth S Grunt, but not the last time in the commentary booth S Grunt. S Grunt, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for the wonderful lead in here. We've got a pretty interesting matchup tonight. Xenocat and Saradin are both at the top of the Crystal Ring group, and they are both undefeated at this point in time, but we're not going to be leading here tonight without seeing one of them walk away with a loss. Only one person can win this match. And what a seed we've got lined up for the two of them, isn't it?
It does look fantastic, but I heard, did you say crystal rings? Like rings? They're good for your speed? The more you have, the more you need. The more you need, the better you play. So crystal rings are here to stay. I don't think we were in unison at all on that. But you know what? Who cares? We're having fun here.
Exactly.
Yes, Xenocat 3-0, currently in the driver's seat in this crystal ring group. Saradin at 2-0. If Saradin pulls the win here, will be themselves in the pole position in the group as the sole undefeated member of that group left. So there is one way, of course, that our runners could walk away without a loss. But we'll get to that later, if it comes to that. But we do have some interesting objectives here. Nothing on the moon proper, that is, but we do see the Giant of Babel. That's always a super exciting one to me.
Yeah, and we see a pretty large variety of different key items we're going to need for this. We've got both of the tails, which also need the hook to turn in. We have the super cannon, which requires the tower key. We've got the giant, of course, which needs the darkness crystal. But the sealed cave, which needs the Loki key. We've got the Baron castle, which needs the Baron key, and we've got the pan. That is a total of 8 key items, just under half of the total number of key items that you can pick up in a free enterprise seat. So it's going to be quite a ride.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of items needed, and I think it goes without saying that given how long this seed might go, huge thank you to our friends at RPG Limit Break for allowing us to put on this fantastic Adamant Cup group race between Xenocat and Saradin. And thank you behind the scenes to Niabari for rolling this very key item heavy seed, and thank you in advance to JMac the Librarian for pushing and to not eating the buttons.
Which may very well be all the buttons.
It very well could be. Needing, especially the pink tail and the rat tail to me is interesting as well. The pink tail guaranteeing an adamant armor is huge for our runners. The namesake of the tournament, the Adamant Cup, of course, being that adamant armor. One of the most broken pieces of equipment in any Final Fantasy game ever. And we are off to, well, I was going to say a flying start, but this is just a start. We have a Pan, we have an Edward, we have a CPU and a Palom. There is not a lot going on this start for our runners.
Well, we do have the pan for whenever we get underground, we'll be able to turn that in right away.
Yeah, I think for our runners, given these two particular characters, they are hoping with all their heart that they do not find a hook if this party composition does not improve. A hook would be very scary for these two characters, and Magma Key would be desired. But let's see where our runners go. Looks like Xenocat and Saradin both heading over to Troya to pick up the free key item.
Yeah, one peculiarity of the flag set for the group seeds is that we do get the free key item from Edward at Troya Castle. This is not always the case, but here we're about to see what we can pick up for free.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of routing in this free key item and then Eblin. Well, just kidding. Eblin might be off the table now because we're a party rock, y'all.
Yes, and if you've got the party rock right here, right now, you know what people are going to go and do with it right away.
Play happy songs, talk to people. They're gonna play one of our favorite games. Enjoy.
That's an interesting call. I've got pretty good weapons for just about anyone that could be joining the party at this point.
That was awful for this party until the very end when the Artemis Bow and the Stardust Rod showed up. There was some defensive gear in there, which was fantastic, but the Stardust Rod at the end for this Palom is enormous, especially to go with the glass hat that was found and the Protect Ring. That's going to be a world of difference early on.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that can, and since both of our runners have that right away, we're going to see some. I think it's going to be a fairly easy cleanup, so to speak, towards the start of the seed.
Yeah, that Stardust Rod alone is really going to be a key carry component for our runners. It's the first primary power spike that they would have found, so that's a very big deal for both of our runners.
See, Saradin is electing to go over to Adamant Castle right away. That makes sense. We need the hovercraft later to turn into tails. Xenocat is sticking around, checking out the shops.
Yeah, and looks like we're getting some Damsian basement looting from Saradin as well. So opting out of Ebland, going to take a more conservative approach, avoid some trap chests. Not the most impressive from the Damsian basement. We'll see if the 3 chests here are any better. A Stardust J item is nice to go with. I think there was a Zeus Rage as well.
Yes.
So not too bad for our runners. They do have the Earth Crystal, which they've already gone and taken care of. Maybe when they get underground, if there's like an early magma key, they can turn in that pan and get some extra goodies if there's no key item progression. But some pretty good defensive gear. The Protect Ring, the Glass Hat, the Stardust Rod. I guess even Artemis Bow and like some Ice Arrows can be decent for Edward, so not going to be the worst.
Yeah, it looks like both of our runners are now headed to Mount Hobbs, presumably to pick up the character that's here, to fill with this party a little bit more. Now that we've got the offensive power with these 2 characters to be able to take on pretty much anyone that could show up here.
Yeah, the best 2 characters in this party right now are the Stardust Rod and the Artemis Bow.
Yes.
Edward and Palom, they're just vessels. And speaking of vessels, we now have a vessel for that defense sword, and that vessel's name is Cain, with a Baigen. That Cain is quite useful early on. Probably a mid-tier or lower Berserker come the end of the game, but early on, Cain is a fantastic find. And this fight would frankly be awful without that Stardust Rod, so that's a really, really convenient find for our runners, given this particular fight.
Guess the boss here got more than he bargained for.
Nope. No response. Nope. We're good. I like it. Keep doing it.
Absolutely.
We love our puns. Well, I mean, I love the puns, so yeah. Anyway, we now have a Cain, we have Baigen down. Saradin making up a bit of time there. Now, instead of being in sync with Xenocat, is ahead. Did not get XP on Edward, but probably doesn't super care about that. And is going to head over to Antline, and we will see if Xenocat joins it.
Yeah, there's a few possible things that Saradin might be looking for in Antline, mainly the key item, of course. I think it's unlikely that Saradin will choose to do any looting in Antline Cave, given the current haul of items. Maybe a few chests here and there, but we do have a fairly good loadout so far.
Yeah, unlikely to be a full loot, but the first 3 chests here, the chests you walk by, are fairly common to loot just because they are on the way, and it's still very early in the seed. We're not even 6 minutes in yet, so definitely a good time still to be looting.
Yes. Alright, now taking a few moments to equip and is heading down into the boss of Antline Cave. Let's see who we've got today. That is the Magus Sisters.
So let me talk once more about the best party member that we have right now, called the Stardust Rod. Yet another fight, where that Stardust Rod is just going to clean it up. 1 Stardust, fight's over. GG.
Ooh, that is not a key item, and we already have an Artemis Bow. So, I suppose it's possible we'll see that samurai bow get used if we find another archer for the party, but presumably not what anyone is hoping to see here.
Yeah, I don't hate walking it out though. It does represent a decent pile of cash, and it was one extra level on Palom. Any early level you can get on Palom is huge. The quicker he gets the virus, the quicker he goes from being a carrier of a Stardust Rod to an actual true Black Mage. Virus and Quake, of course, call him the Quack Kid. That's what he's named after. The quicker you get him there, the better off you are. So I don't hate walking the XP out for both runners.
Yeah, it's a perfectly fair move. Saradin now heading over to Fabul, presumably for the defense.
I am a little intrigued by this, and I wonder if Xenocat does the same thing. And I bring this up simply because you have the pan already. A lot of runner instinct is going to be to try to single dip locations. So to maybe try to find a magma key at Baron Inn or Mount Ordeals in, trying to avoid going to Fabul, excuse me, multiple times. It looks like Xenocat is headed back over to Zot, maybe making a very early play on Zot. May also be looking to take out the Flame Dog on the way up. We could get some real divergence, and this is potentially very heavy on the gamble side, but could pay out huge if there's something like a Fusoya up on the top of Zot.
Yeah, this is certainly an interesting play. I don't know personally if I were in this boat if I would be bold enough to think that this party could take on the Zot bosses, but it's certainly possible.
Yeah, it's doable, but it's one of those can I versus should I situations. You definitely can, but is the risk versus the reward the correct balance? Definitely something I will want to ask the Xenocat about regardless of the outcome, as Saradin has plowed his way through Fabul's defense already.
Yes. Where we're only seeing King Queen Evelyn as the fight there. In principle, a free fight, we were seeing a lot of Stardust use there to sort of accelerate things. That was a Murasame, also not a key item.
No, but if there's an edge somewhere, you pair that with the ninja sword that was found in the treasury, and you're all kinds of happy. Meanwhile, speaking of happy, Eddie getting to hit things for over 1,000 damage less than 10 minutes into a seed, you basically never get to see that. And let's see what the doggo gives us. We pet the doggo, we get a protect ring. Not bad, we now have 2 protect rings, so that's cool.
Saradin looking to do some shopping in Fabul while we're here.
Yep, definitely like it. If you're going to go somewhere, that's the time to shop. Don't make those extra shop checks unnecessarily. So I really like routing in the shop check while you're here. And it really feels bad if you wanted, let's say, those silk webs that were in the shop for Saradin, and you had to come back and get them later. It just feels bad.
It's certainly a reason you would want to make this stop early if you're interested in finding those kinds of items early.
Absolutely. And Xenocat about to show us a very important piece of information. Punish, success. What does Zot have? A sparkle that's potentially terrifying or potentially free? That's terrifying.
It is terrifying.
That is not the best situation for Xenocat to find themselves in. Ogopogo, not going to be brutally bad here, but is going to punch hard enough. I wonder who has the glass hat, who has the protect ring, and if there's enough curatives in the inventory, if those 10 cure 2s can get there. This is very interesting while we see Saradin plowing through Baron Inn, and a lot of easy bosses on Saradin's side, quite the opposite on Xenocat's side.
Notice a cane on the ground for Xenocat.
Yeah, and Floor Tank Dragoon is not where you want to be right now in this fight. Xenocat really going to need to stretch those 10 cure 3s here and hope to get through this fight. There's 9,000 health here, so this is not a trivial amount for this party right now. Bluffing up Palom, maybe going to try to go for some form of like an Alpha Strike at the end and, get a huge Fire 2 through. But yeah, this is a This is where Xenocat's Lit 3 skills are going to come in. Looks like a Lit 2 is queued, while Saradin has already cleared out this Baron Inn and is going to be rewarded with a Rosa.
And that's not the only reward, that is a Magma Key.
Yeah, this is going to put Xenocat on a clock, because this gives Saradin access to now 4 party members, underground access, the pan turn-ins. Obviously, if Xenocat gets through this Ogopogo and picks up some meaningful characters, we can change the tenor of this a bit. But right now, the early advantage has to go to Saradin here.
Absolutely. Finding a Magma Key this early in the season certainly changes the dynamics a lot of what you're going to be doing. I expect there's a good chance we're going to see Saradin turn in the Magma Key immediately.
Yeah, I definitely would expect that, and huge congrats on getting through that Ogopogo for Xenocat. That is not an easy fight there. So job very well done, and we shall see what characters await. Was the Zot gamble worth the effort for Xenocat? Remains to be seen, but heck of a job getting through the first fight.
Yes, as expected, Saradin is turning in the Magma Key after picking up some Cure 2s and Cannons.
And let us find out, as Xenocat makes their way in, that is a Yong in a blue robe, so we know now that Dwarf Castle has either a Water Hag or a Gauntlet. That would drive me away from Dwarf Castle. That Yong, not who you wanted to see. It's a character that exists, not one that's good early on, a character that's great later on with about 50 levels, but we're about 40 levels away from that. Cecil, no holy swords yet, but that's a potential game changer. Xenocat may change up the routing here, may go to Ordeals, and then may dive straight into Eblin Castle and go fishing for holy swords. Very interested to see what the decisions are here.
Keeping the Edward is an interesting move here.
Yeah, Yong doesn't do a whole lot. Edward can equip the Artemis bow, and that's a huge deal. Also, with 25 agility is quite fast. So if there is a hope of getting through this fight, as we see it dropping down to battle speed 2, Edward honestly is going to contribute a ton. So very interested to see how this turns out. While Saradin has gone through and peeked some Dwarf Castle shops, this is a terrible fight to find. The ice arrows are nice, but watch out for these counters. And Xenocat saying, I don't even think I'm going to mess with this. We're going to jump, probably Ice 2, maybe throw out a Blizzard, but actually punching or using the fight command, rough.
And that is not good for Edward to be down there so quickly.
Nope, but we do on Saradin's side get a Job Dwarf check and an Elixir check from the shop. Unfortunately, I'm terrible at reading and did not catch what the Job Dwarf's job was today. So that is on me, folks.
Chat is telling us that the Job Dwarf is a parts salesperson.
Alright, I don't know what parts they're selling, but I'm buying.
Well, I for one will have no part of that.
Very nice. Edward, a glare magnet, having a staring contest with Ruby and losing every single time. Fun fact, everyone's going to lose that staring contest every single time in this spot. A random heroine robe for Saradin to go with a free key item check here, which is, I believe, another Protect Ring. So that's 2 for each runner now. The Xenocat will end up with 3 of them. And Edward has decided it's nap time again.
Unfortunate timing on the ice, too. Well, Saradin, presumably about to look and see who our Feymarch bosses are.
Random crystal ring in a pot is pretty darn good, though. And the sirens in the shop, too. So, not bad at all. And there's a 6,500 damage ice, too. Ruby is gone. Took a little while. But let's see if Xenocat is rewarded for this play. I tell you who wasn't rewarded for peeking into the Fey March, and that was Saradin. Valvalus at the Asura spot, hard pass. And the dolls at the Leviathan spot, that'll be fine later, but not now.
And we are about to find out if the Zot gamble has paid off further than it already has. Will this be an important key item, or will it be another Zog? That is a Luca key. That is hard required.
I would say that is an important key item. So, probably not something Xenocat's going to look to chase immediately or really even anytime soon. But definitely good information to have, as that's something that your opponent may not go to do. Especially if, let's say, there's a good character like an Edge floating around in Dwarf Castle. You'd be pushed away from doing the character checks and may be pushed away from finding that Luca key. So certainly not the worst situation at all for Xenocat, but still tough to say because that Zot check took a long time. Saradin will certainly get through it quicker, and does also pick up a Sand Ruby from the pan. That Sand Ruby, who knows what is going to show up through it.
It looks like Saradin is going to check the other, the remaining items from the pan, and as well as the... Oh, actually no. Saradin is going to turn in the Sand Ruby immediately.
I like this play. Any chance you have to get a Fusoya, you take. This is a chance at an early Fusoya, so I am 100% on board with this.
That is a Tella, and apparently not what we're looking for at this point in the seed.
Yeah, that's a character that exists. It's definitely not the old man that our runners wanted. But meanwhile, Xenocat did get through that Baron Inn significantly faster than Saradin did, so definitely made up a little time there. We'll see if that extra XP, it was roughly 15,000 XP picked up from Zot, plays a part in Xenocat being able to pull back some of the time spent in Zot, as it did work as kind of a mini grind.
Saradin now back at Kubul, about to check both of the remaining items here, now that the pan has been applied.
Yeah, you just apply pan to the forehead, and everything works out just fine.
Sometimes everything just pans out well.
And sometimes it doesn't. Let's see, will Sheila cooperate? Will there be more cooking? Well, there's going to be cooking for our ears.
That is a rat tail as the second item there.
Sheila has the good jaw. That's a twin harp and a rat tail. Twin harp, as much as I hate to say it, is not a bad check on this flag set. I know, y'all. It pains me to say it too, but it's really not that bad a check.
No, it's certainly great for our viewers. Great. If I'm not mistaken, Saradin is going to the delight of everyone here today, except possibly, is going to turn in the harp right away.
Or might say that, I am part of Team Fade Harp, may fade the harp, may do Zot, but probably is just going to do the twin harp. Meanwhile, Xenocat, heading up Ordeals to get that Paladin online, is provided with a demist, and that will be a fairly trivial fight, though it may take a hot second here. But I think Virus has been acquired on Palom, so it shouldn't be too bad. And it does look like Saradin says, let's go up Zot, instead of going to the twin harp.
It's a bit of an interesting play, considering that if you're inclined to check the harp at this point, you will need to come back here after you're done with the Zot, because you get placed at Baron immediately afterwards.
My assumption is, and I haven't seen if there are exits around at all, if you do Zot first, you get exit on Rosa, which you can then use from Cave Magnus. So I do wonder if this is a play for exit first, while also doing the character checks.
That's certainly possible.
Yeah, that's my assumption, which I think is pretty sound reasoning on Saradin's side if that's the case. looking for
Meanwhile-
that flame dog, and yeah,
Finds
go
it.
ahead.
And meanwhile, that is back attack Odin, who, in the time we've taken to return the discussion to this point, has already been defeated on Xenocat's side.
Yeah, small child with level 2 elemental spells is going to give things like Ruby, Odin, even Kainatsu to a certain extent, the elements fight a bad day. One single lit 2, fire 2, ice 2, gonna do really bad things to any of those element-based bosses.
Okay, let's find out if this ordeals check is worthwhile beyond the upgrade to Cecil. Because this is a key item we're about to see, in principle. That is just a rune ring. Which is, it's certainly fine in my book, just for the upgrade to Cecil here alone.
Yeah, no shortage of rings for party members this seed. We've seen a crystal ring, 3 protect rings, a rune ring. Well, speaking of Kainatsu, we had the Giant of Babel as an objective here. A couple of the most fun, and I use that in quotations, but a couple of the most fun bosses that could be on the Giant have been seen already. Baigen, Ogopogo, Kainatsu, Valvolus, the Magus Sisters, like all of those at that element spot are pretty time consuming and pretty rude. Demist as well. So I think our runners, at least by my calculations, are in for a better than average experience on the Giant.
Alright, let's see how Saradin is doing with Ogopogo. It seems like this fight is not faring the best at the moment.
Yeah, the difference is Saradin has Heroine Robe, Artemis Bow, Mute Arrow on Rosa, who is doing between 900 and 1800 damage. Just a very small matter of time before this fight is over. And looks like Xenocat is on their way back down Mount Ordeals. Paladin is online, is equipped up as well as the Paladin can be for right now. But we do see Saradin through that Ogopogo considerably quicker than Xenocat was able to get through. So while Xenocat picked up time in Baron Inn, Saradin definitely picked up time on that Ogopogo fight.
Okay, let's see where Xenocat is headed now. I can see a couple of different options here making sense. It looks like Xenocat is going to turn in the Magma Key as well, which is a most sensible play here.
Yeah, Xenocat's going to want to make the freebie loop check. Take out that Panbonk, take out the Feymarch freebie, take out Sheila 1 and 2. So going to want to get all those turned in as soon as possible. You really don't want to leave those floating too long. So that is something that's going to weigh pretty heavily for Xenocat. The question for me is, do we see like a single egg taken on Xenocat's side? Do we see Eblin Castle taken? And then on Saradin's side as well, is the route from here immediately over to Ordeals? Is there going to be any fishing for holy swords from either of our runners? That to me is going to be the interesting part, is when do we go play the game of can we find the guy the big sword? Because it's going to happen at some point.
Yeah. Supposing Saradin takes Cecil here, which is virtually certain. And there goes Edward. Being swapped in.
Yeah, there are 2 characters that I personally care about on this flag set, and they're also the 2 that won't be around for brackets. That's Cecil and Fusoya. Those are your 2 biggest power players. So you sit there and you think, okay, how do I generate power? How do I gain an advantage? In Saradin's case, the advantage being gained right now is having such amazing equipment going into this fight. This Ruby fight, as long as this Ice 2 fires, is going to be over, like, right now. But the Ice 2 is a little late, so going to give back a tiny bit of time while Xenocat is going through the underground.
And there's the crumble. Saradin is through the fight.
Yeah, Saradin through that fight. Again, a much faster Tower of Zot. So right now, Saradin is up the Feymarch Peak, the Pan Turn-ins, and Xenocat is up Mount Ordeals. So I think Xenocat probably about a quarter check ahead right now. But both runners neck and neck. Xenocat's routing may pay off here if they opt to do a siren or two while already underground. That could be a huge boon to them, but really going to come down to what direction our runners head.
All right, Saradin just now getting out of Zot. Let's see where he heads. To Mysidia. Possibly looking for more equipment, more items. Which makes sense now that we have a Cecil to buff up.
Yeah, you definitely want to find, I think in this case you might want to look for things like Star Veils, Cure 2s, tents, cabins. Looks like we are going to get a small handful of Veils purchased. Also some Mute Bells, maybe considering a potential Warlock grind at a future date on Saradin's side. Something you normally don't see picked up on this flag set, but I do like that pickup.
We do have the required Darkness Crystal, so it would make sense that Saradin would be considering Moon Grind options. Xenocat peeking the Feymarch bosses, not liking what they're seeing, and gets the heck out of the Feymarch.
Yeah, the big question for me is, does Xenocat swing a left and stop and pop an egg? Doesn't look like we're going to get a siren. So we're going to have relative level parity for our runners right now. I do wonder, still the burning question to me is who fishes first? Because you got a power spike with that treasury early on. To really advance one of these scenes, you got to find that second power spike. And I wonder if we get a fish for that, or if we just keep looking for characters and maybe try to roll into a Fusoya. Because either a Holy Sword or a Fusoya is that next power spike.
What I find really interesting here is we've seen both Saradin and Xenocat go through, say, Self Cave and not check many, if any, of the chests on the way there. Perhaps they don't feel ready to try taking on some of the trap chests in the area to go fishing for that sort of power spike, but going for the trap chests in this flag set is a bit of a power play if you can get it right, because as you might expect, you can get adamant armors from trap chests in this flag set. And finding just one of those can make a gigantic difference in your power. Definitely
true. The adamant armors, the holy swords, any of those things you can get from trap chests are definitely great. The question though becomes, where do you go? Because Sylph trap chests are annoying. They take a lot of time when you don't have relative agility 1 on your Quake Kid, or a way to quickly just flatten with AoE an encounter. So I think that would lead our runners away from Sylph, at least without hourglasses anyway.
What I suspect we might see later on, given that we do need the hook in order to complete this flag set, is later on we might see once our runners feel like making hook checks, we might see a couple of raids on Evelyn just to try to check the trap chests there, as even for a mid-game party, they are significantly easier to take on than some of the trap chests you might find elsewhere.
That's true, and they do have an incredible payout as well. That those trap chests get you a small amount of XP, but a large potential at some sort of super high tier endgame weaponry or armor.
The biggest surprises that I think we could hope to find in trap chests this seed, in addition to the adamant armors, of course, would be a top tier holy sword for Cecil. The Excalibur and the Crystal Sword both being tier 8 items, of course.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Light sword, defense sword, those are nice, but they're not Holy Man's holy sword. So that's That's definitely something that's on the table for our runners. I do want to address in chat that yes, D Machine would be available. You could life glitch if the Darkness Crystal showed up. However, there is no slingshot with max 4. You have to have 5 party members in order to slingshot. So that means there's a lot less D Machine grinds that happen in this tournament, at least on the group stage. Now expect some of that to change on brackets when Cecil and Fusoya are gone, but at least for this flag set, they're few and far between where you actually see viable D Machine grinds.
I find that, given the general high completion rate that you require for this flag set, a lot of people may opt just to take the experience from grinding through everything on the moon, for example. Just completing a lot of those checks will get you a very large amount of experience. Sometimes you don't need to do much beyond that.
That's absolutely true. Oftentimes the moon XP will just get you there naturally. So yeah, looks like Xenocat also says no thank you to Tella. Is going to do a little bit of shopping while here in Kaipo, probably looking for cursed rings. Based on shopping armor, says no, I'm good, is going to reset out. Saradin making the music play, and we will see, is Xenocat right behind him, or is Xenocat going to go elsewhere, like maybe Dwarf Castle? Looks like it is fishing time for Xenocat. So we get music on one side, and we get fishing on the other side. Here we go. So yeah, Xenocat looking for one of 3 things. Crystal Sword, Excalibur, Adamant Armor. You really want to hit a Holy Sword, more so even than an Adamant Armor right now.
Here's the first trap chest.
You would not be sad.
Here's the Mad Ogre chest. There's making quick work of this.
Yep, Mad Ogres, they're mages. Why? Don't know.
Clearly they're punch mages.
Oh, so they're young. Got it.
Exactly.
We do see Saradin making good use of the virus spell to expedite the pre-Dark Elf fight, and going to give us a little bit of music. So yeah, this is the part where I'm told I have to shut my mouth.
Yeah, we need to turn it over to the one, the only DJ Spoony D. Enjoy. Thank you for that wonderful performance, Edward. During the time that Saradin has been fighting Mom Bomb, Xenocat has found an adamant armor in one of the trap chests, whereas Saradin, for completing this fight, finds the darkness crystal, which is required.
Yeah, I guess you could say that fight was the bomb for Saradin. And oh hey, Eblin Castle doing Eblin Castle things. We now have adamant armor, crystal sword, Cecil. Oh baby, the fishing trip was successful. Yeah, that's called. Xenocat now has that power spike that they were looking for, and this is why Eblin Castle is the place to find the guy, the things.
I do believe Saradin is headed to Mysidia to turn in the darkness crystal immediately.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. Twin Harp leading to darkness, Saradin definitely going to push that. The question is, does Saradin go fishing along with Xenocat, or does Saradin avoid Eblin Castle? Whatever direction Saradin goes needs to be the right direction if it's not exactly Eblin Castle. Saradin is about a half a check ahead right now, in addition to that Twin Harp, so maybe 1.5 checks. But there's a freight train coming, and that freight train is Crystal Sword, Adamant Armor, Cecil. Saradin is on a clock.
So we see Xenocat immediately heading over to the sealed cave with our newly powered up Cecil, which makes sense. We now have the means to take on this objective.
Yeah, Xenocat has the power to go through and do this check. There are very few things that are going to slow Xenocat down. Golbez could with the virus that would come out. Wyvern could with the Mega Nuke if the anchoring is not in a good enough position. But by and large, there are not many things that can take out an Adamant Armor wearer, especially one that's running around with the holiest of swords.
Saradin electing to check the moon shop. See if we get anything interesting from that. Hourglasses. That's always a nice find. Considering that Saradin has already been considering moon grind options, it makes sense that we see Saradin pick up some hourglasses here as well. Which isn't to say that those don't have a variety of other utility as well, but that may be the play here. Xenocat finds Legend Sword in Sealed Cave.
Yeah, Legend Sword, not a required key item, but this is a required objective, so that's going to be just perfect for Xenocat on this side.
And a required boss is Dark Imps, essentially a freebie.
Well, there is something to help Saradin maybe stem the tide here. The quicker the Fusoya is online, the quicker you get powered up. So the only bad thing here is this Fusoya may drive Saradin away from Eblin Castle. So may miss out on an Adamant Armor and a Crystal Sword, but may have a Fusoya online substantially faster than Xenocat. So still a very interesting situation we find ourselves in with the runners because of exactly that Fusoya showing up.
Saradin electing to go right back into the moon immediately.
And this is interesting because we do not have any moon objectives. So the conventional wisdom here, the conventional play, the conservative play, would be to absolutely go ham on Earth and take out every possible check. Saradin may feel that based on routing, based on something they've done, and I'd be curious what that would be, maybe feeling behind and saying, well, I should go clear out this moon, or may also be saying, I don't know that my opponent, even as one of the two individuals who has put the majority of the Twin Harp songs in the pool, I don't know that my opponent would have done this, and maybe looking for a serious leg up by going for that early darkness from that Twin Harp check.
The main logic that I can see behind this is, oh, this is interesting. Saradin is doing a Warlock grind, or at least one Warlock encounter.
Well, and
Yeah,
it makes sense because we did see the Mute Bell pickups. So that's a way to get levels and a way to help a defense Sword Cecil do a little bit more, but also a way to get Rosa online and Kane online. It does quite a bit.
So the reasoning here, presumably, is get your characters online and head to the large pool of key item density that is the bottom of the subterranean. Certainly possible here.
Yeah, I would definitely think that you dive down, you leverage Nuke. For fights you have to, you use Berserkers. But I think Fusoya coming stock with Nuke is a huge boon for Saradin. Meanwhile, we do see Xenocat just going through Earth checks.
Yes, that's Dark Elf at the first Dwarf Castle check. We've already seen a blue robe for the second Dwarf Castle boss. We don't know yet if it's Water Hag or the Gauntlet.
Yeah, the Gauntlet is super awkward and takes a lot of time. If this check comes up empty in particular, if it is the Gauntlet, and Saradin fades it forever and it's not required, that is a huge amount of time that's picked up. This Dark Elf fight, even though Crystal Sword Cecil obliterates it, is still not fast. Most other fights would be faster, because you'd just be able to Berserk Crystal Sword Cecil and not have to deal with extra animations and things like that. But this Dark Elf fight is still going to take 2 hits. There's a lot of text, there's a couple spells, and then if it's Gauntlet, then you end up with a situation of 5 more fights where Berserk isn't even really that great. So if this doesn't have value and Saradin's able to fade it, that's minutes of time that Saradin is able to save. So still very very push and pull here because of the layout of the characters and some of the equipment.
That is an edge.
Yeah, that's also really good. There's the Murasame, there's the ninja shirt, there's
the ninja sword.
Yeah, the ninja sword. That's a lot of power. That's the 2 Zerkers you want on this flag set endgame. They're the 2 strongest, and I think Xenocat going to be very happy.
Certainly happy to see that this is Water Hag.
Yeah, better than the alternative. It also means that there is a gauntlet somewhere out there. We could be looking at a lunar gauntlet even. Everyone loves a good old moon ball. And by everyone, I mean not the runners who have to face it.
The viewers certainly appreciate at least some of it, though. Chat raising an interesting question. So you are a Xenocat, you go to the moon and you find a Fusoya. Do you toss Palom or do you toss Rosa?
I think you toss Palom.
I agree. I think we would toss Palom. Xenocat through the Water Hag fight. We are about to see if this check is worthwhile beyond the edge we've already found.
I mean, I do think that edge is a big pickup. Certainly cannot understate how important a second quality Zerker is. As we alluded to, Kane does fall off fairly quickly. So there is always that fear that you end up in a situation where you don't have a second quality character.
Xenocat picks up an Adamant from this check. That means that Forge is online, should they choose to do so.
Yeah, the Forge is more power. Xenocat may not even turn it in. You get an Excalibur, which is a decent dart. You get access to a shop. But realistically, Xenocat has a Rosa, an Edge, and a Cecil. And there's little more you need than exactly those 3 things. So I'm curious if we even get a Forge here from Xenocat, and the answer is no. And I think this is actually pretty sound reasoning here to not even bother.
Meanwhile, Saradin, checking the White Spirit altar, runs into a resident comedian, Golbez, and immediately resets out of the fight.
There's a really interesting thing about that Golbez at exactly the White Spear altar. Shadow, the snake, gets all of the magic power except for 4. Also, haha, Lunar Gauntlets. This moon is great, y'all. So Golbez gets 4 magic power. That 4 magic power means Lit 3 not going to do hardly anything. The Fire 2 not going to do hardly anything. The Virus, not going to do much. The problem though is you get Veils up, and you can't reflect any damage. You still have to do the whole 28,000. So you have a Golbez that's super slow, a Gauntlet that's super slow. Here is a reprieve, at least, for Saradin with a Mylon Z at the Ogopogo spot. Excuse me, a Mylon and Friends.
Yeah, DJ Mylon's dance party. This tends to be a relatively straightforward fight no matter where you find it.
Yeah, and with Quake for Fusoya or Fire 3, even Meteor, however you'd want to get through this, it is easy enough to do.
Speaking of Quake, Xenocat is electing to take on the dolls in the Fey March, and we're seeing the Quakes come out fast and furious, so to speak. Certainly knows how to shake things up a bit.
Yeah, those dolls are really quaking in their boots. Or booties? Or whatever they're wearing on their little feet. There are 2 of them left, though, so that is a little bit scary. But not going to be a problem because they are already stopped.
Yes.
And Cessno decides, goodbye, dolls. And we shall see if there's any value down here for Xenocat.
A stack of Artemis arrows.
Yeah, not the value Xenocat was looking for. Certainly going to be playing ball now with that Val. Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. This is going to be one of the easiest and smoothest Val fights you're ever going to see because of, well, Adamant Armor, Crystal Sword, Cecil.
Goodbye, Defense Sword.
Yeah, White Spears, Defense Swords, anything, send it all. It's not required anymore. And it looks like Saradin is leveraging Nuke quite a bit, to the surprise of not too many folks, I would assume, to try to get through this moon and make some headway here. The interesting thing about the Gauntlet, looking back at it, I do wonder if Saradin is going to attempt to save that Gauntlet for 10 key items and make that the rest of his grind, rather than go after it right now and maybe try to get to just pure power overwhelming. And meanwhile, that is a required Fey March. Val has the goods in the form of the Baron Key, so access now to objective number 5 for Xenocat. And that just means more and more on this Earth. Xenocat taking the conventional route, Saradin taking the more obscure route. So far, looks like advantage Xenocat here, but too soon to tell. The moon could still have a ton of value.
It only takes 1 or 2 of these required key items to be on the moon to possibly make the moon play worthwhile here. And that is the end of DJ Mylon's dance party. What kind of value do we find here? A pink tail.
Yeah.
That is fascinating, as that is a hard requirement.
Yeah, value at the bottom of the moon also means that there is a better than average chance now that when Xenocat full clears the Earth, which they are doing, that they go top down, which means the last possible key item check could be what Xenocat ends up doing. So this means that Saradin might have the potential advantage on not 28 out of 28ing or 17 out of 17ing the seed, which is bosses fought versus bosses available and then key items acquired versus key items available. But can Saradin make up the Crystal Sword Adamant armor Cecil difference? That's going to be the real big kind of push and pull of the remainder of the seed.
We see Saradin applying statuses to their party in preparation for the Golbez fight.
And why would they do this, Escaron? This seems kind of weird to turn your party into pigs and miniature-sized creatures.
It so happens that for various interesting reasons, Golbez's hold gas does not apply to your party if they have statuses applied to them. So what this enables us to do, someone facing Golbez to do, is they will get an action prior to the normal start of the fight. This is the perfect opportunity, for example, to apply Star Veils if you choose to go that route.
Yeah, this is a way to get Star Veils on, a way to get someone with Fire 3 queued up, any number of ways to help get through this. The Lit 3 will still do somewhere in the neighborhood of like 400 to 700 damage depending on the character, so it's still a fair amount. But it's really not super scary. Saradin, though, did buy an extra stack of like 6 or 7 Veils, so very safe, and gonna get through this just fine. I would expect Fu to get rezzed here in order to get some Fire 3s off, and we may see someone else come up. It looks like Rosa decided to Telelife. Telelifing, as we all know, is when your stats are too low to successfully cast the white magic spell Life, which does not, in fact, have 100% accuracy. So Rosa failed to cast that life spell because of the Heroine Robe and Artemis Bow and things like that, which feels pretty bad, especially after that Warlock run.
In the meantime, Xenocat is finding that Kenatsu is content to share the throne with the other elements in Baron Castle for once. Of course, being an overworld check with a Crystal Armor Adamant Cecil, this fight is already over.
Yeah, I think there was the element of surprise there on the look of the boss. They just got one shot.
They were a bit out of their element.
I would absolutely agree with that. There's a Lit 3 doing it 656 damage back to Golbez. Yeah, that's not good. And some vanilla in the seed. That is a vanilla Sid. You know him, you love him. He makes a great anchor, but Xenocat says, nah, I'm good.
In just a few moments, we're going to see if we get any additional value in Baron beyond the objective.
Well, we have a twin facing the correct direction, which is actually kind of cool that we got a vanilla twin sprite, saving us from the walls closing in on our party. And also another character which I've already forgotten because I have a potato for a brain.
Xenocat finds a pass, which I normally call the free pass because it's something you'll naturally get as part of your objective completion.
It's actually very interesting for Saradin. I think more so even than Xenocat, as we see a package from Golbez, which is not required. Because if Saradin comes down and completes that Baron check, may be thinking all along, oh, I have to run this entire moon again and, go back through the LST, Lunar Subterrane, but in reality it wouldn't happen. So that could be very interesting in the endgame for Saradin, as Xenocat has stumbled across the good doctor hanging out in the basement.
Meanwhile, Saradin, having found his 10th key item, is indeed returning to the Alt Gauntlet.
Yeah, ain't no power like power overwhelming. This is a way for Saradin to make sure that every level they could ever want is acquired. One thing I would say about this fight and about this gauntlet as a whole, the best thing you can do in this gauntlet, you would think it's nuke. It's actually weak. Every single thing in this gauntlet can be weaked. And that would be Fusoya's optimal use in this fight. It's one thing that I love to see folk do is cast weak instead of nuke. It's more mana efficient, which is a huge concern with Fu. So we'll see if Saradin adjusts at all, or if he knows that weak is a good option here instead of just nuking.
And we are starting to see the weak casts come out here.
Perfect. I love to see it.
Well, Dr. Luggage is no more on Xenocat's side. Is this worth it? That is merely a silver apple, so no, it is not worth it. We see the reset.
No, but in Xenocat's shoes, you cannot fade anything. Also, Xenocat has not located the Darkness Crystal. They have exactly one check left. Xenocat knows that music has the Darkness Crystal, or the Tower Key, or the hook, which chains into it. But Xenocat knows that the Twin Harp is progression, as there is literally nothing else on Earth they have done. Keep in mind, we're just getting to the hour mark. And Xenocat has done all of these checks on Earth. Oh, Keyless Tower as well, my apologies. Xenocat has done all of these checks on Earth. Saradin has done half of the moon already, including a gold base, is the better part of the way through a gauntlet. Just to give an idea of how efficient these runners are being in this seed. And it does look like Saradin making their way through fight 3 of 5. The neat thing about the last 2 fights here is they are very near and dear to the Free Enterprise community's heart. The last 2 fights of this gauntlet are trickers. We have a tricker bot as part of the community, and we love our tricker bot. It's fantastic. But do not, under any circumstance, cast Lit 3 on that tricker unless you can kill it outright. Because if you don't, it will fire back with a party-wide Lit 3 and you will have a bad day.
But now, we have an encore on the horizon from the one, the only DJ Spoony D. So we will let you listen to that.
Wait, do we have to? I thought we did this once. We can just keep talking. It's not like we're going to get...
And with that fight, Xenocat acquires their Darkness Crystal.
And not only acquired the Darkness Crystal, but also got to skip the Explode phase for Mom as well, picking up a fairly considerable amount of time over Saradin there. So Xenocat now with a full overworld and underground clear, less exactly the Keyless Tower, has their Darkness Crystal. Do we get that Keyless Tower play or not? Oh baby, there's an Adamant armor. That is a pretty decent equalizer, at least on Saradin's side. So now the big question for Xenocat is top down or bottom up when they go to the moon.
So we, of course, see Xenocat immediately heading over to the moon, as makes sense. The amount of key item checks that you have up there is considerably more than just the Keyless Tower we have on the Blue Planet at this point in time.
Yeah, and what we do know is there are 2 checks that Saradin is going to have to make on the Earth at a minimum. We'll have to get that Luca key, and we'll have to complete Barren Castle. So Saradin can't possibly find everything here. But we'll certainly be finding the majority of what is remaining. The Tower Key, the Hook, assuming they're not all gated somehow behind exactly Keyless Tower, are likely to be up here. We know Forge is not. We know Baron's not. We know the Spoon is up here. The Pinktail's up here. The Hook is more than likely up here based on key item distribution. If not, this is a shockingly haunted moon other than exactly that Pinktail.
And it is still possible with the amount of checks that we have left on that moon that we will find that hook or that tower key somewhere up here.
The sooner the hook is found, I think the better for Saradin to get back to Earth checks that we know are required. I think the longer the seed goes on, the Crystal Sword Cecil advantage will continue to pay off for Xenocat. It kind of goes back to talking about Saradin being on a clock, that, you know, Xenocat has that endgame advantage, but can Saradin find the good soon enough? Well,
that's certainly the advantage is slipping away right there. That is a Crystal Sword for Saradin.
Just find Crystal Sword Adamant Cecil the more organic way on the moon, Forehead, and don't worry about Eblin Castle. You get a Crystal Sword, you get an Adamant Armor. This seed is like Oprah. Shoutouts to Neobari for at least keeping it even, whether or not it was intended. We have parity back for the runners as far as strength is concerned.
Chat, of course, pointing out that that is the vanilla Crystal Sword altar.
That is true. Vanilla is fun, and vanilla in this case is extremely good for Saradin to make sure that there are no continued issues with any sort of lack of power Zerker-wise.
It appears that Xenocat is electing to clear the subterranean top-down, while Saradin is headed to exactly the same altar.
Yeah, a little bit of a high five from our runners going to be happening here. Not surprising. This is actually a very interesting boss in that Octomam is resistant to Holy. So all the Crystal Swords in the world aren't going to help on this fight. They're still going to do damage, but only 2,000 as opposed to what should be, 4,000 to 6,000 in many cases.
Fortunately for us, we have a Thunderclaw for Edge, which will make up at least a little bit of that difference.
Well, also on Saradin's side, there is a Fusoya as opposed to a Palom, which is going to be a big difference maker in this fight also. And so we do have both runners going to town on this Octomam. I did not realize that Palom had Lit 3 already, but having Lit 3 is fantastic. So with both of these runners kind of hanging out that same spot, I think it's a good time to make sure, given the race that we have seen already, if y'all haven't seen Xenocat play, check them out. Amazing stream, does a lot of Lit 3 stuff, does some Twin Harp streams. Saradin, I have seen Saradin come such a long way in a short time in this community. Does amazing in Sunday slapdashes, does amazing on mystery seeds, fun time on the ladder, lots of great competition from Saradin as well. So both of these runners doing great. Make sure to give them a follow. Like we said before, make sure you give Neobari a follow for rolling this fantastic seed. Make sure that JMac gets your love as well, doing a great job tracking. And my co-commentator, S-Grunt. First time on comms. You sound like a natural. I feel like you've been here before.
Yeah, and don't forget to follow my own co-conspirator, Possimorpheus, as well.
Co-conspirator? I haven't committed any crimes today.
As far as we know. So we do find that the reward of the Murasame altar is merely a life staff. Both runners electing to keep that.
Yeah, I mean, it's best in slot for Rosa, as far as White Mage gear goes. It's also another 120,000 XP. So, no reason not to. It's pretty fantastic, all things considered.
Yeah, we do see Xenocat, of course, continuing on deeper into the moon, whereas Saradin, having finished all of the other moon checks, is now headed over to Cave Bahamut, otherwise known as Cave Value, for the last check on the moon.
Yeah, and will the meme come true? Will there be value in the banana stand tonight? We shall find out probably sooner than later, given the now overwhelming amount of power that both runners have.
Okay, Xenocat just now reaching the save point, closest to the three altars at the bottom of the moon. Saradin coming up on the boss spot. And it looks like Ashura is our resident of Cave Value today.
Yeah, normally you would be assured a fight that would stink here because it would take long and forever and be awful. But today, not going to be too bad. Adamant Armor Cecil with a Crystal Sword. Just going to do bad things here. I don't know if we've seen Mute Knives or Rune Axes yet, but that is the type of thing that would also come in handy here as well.
I do believe we found at least one Mute Knife much earlier in the seed, although I'm not sure that either of our runners will remember if they have that at this point.
Yeah, Xenocat would be much more likely to remember because of the edge and the ability to equip it as a secondary weapon, whereas Kane and Cecil, you get kind of tunnel visioned on the bigger, more powerful weapons. Like even a Crystal Sword there, doing 7,300 while not exploiting any weaknesses, which is just ludicrous damage.
And while the Mute Knife can make a significant difference in some fights with some compositions, I think the level of overwhelming power we already have here might not be as much of a difference as we might otherwise see. We do see Xenocat taking on their own alt gauntlet now. We'll acquire the pass from this fight, as well as the pass was elsewhere. This is the Adamant Armor in the Spoon, of course.
Yeah, the Adamant Armor, definitely going to be a welcome sight for Xenocat. 1 is good, 2 is better, and a 3rd is guaranteed as well. So Xenocat going to have all of the Adamant Armors they could ever want. I guess you could want 4, but you don't need 4. But we do see from Saradin just a glass hat from Value Cave, which means the hook and the tower key are locked behind Keyless Tower. We are destination 28 out of 28, y'all. At least for Xenocat. Maybe Saradin can get away from a 28 out of 28, but wow. This is going to be quite the full clear. And to answer a question from chat, they only have 4 players because of the flag for this tournament, max party 4. No 5th character allowed. You have to figure out how you want to get through with just 4. And I do love the routing here from Saradin. Full clearing the moon, coming back to do the giant. It saves a cutscene doing this. So coming back from the moon, normally you would have a cutscene, you land, you'd go fly to the giant. By going straight to the giant here, it saves somewhere in the neighborhood of about 15 seconds, which in so many of these races could be the deciding factor.
Should not be too long now before we see who our residents of the giant are this time around. There are still considerably quite a few rude bosses that we could see in these spots. We have seen a fair number of potentially problematic bosses here, as we mentioned earlier. Magus Sisters, Kenatsu, D-Mist even. So we shall see who might be able to pose us some more problems today. That is a Sparkle.
See, D-Lunars evaporate to a Crystal Sword, Plague evaporates to a Crystal Sword, and I think that's all that's left? Oh, yeah, my bad. And this one. Blarg. Bye-bye.
That is 1 for Wyvern, 0 for Saradin. We'll see later if Xenocat falls into the same trap.
So this is particularly awkward. This is a bad spot for Wyvern. This spot has 89 agility. It is the fastest in the game. Faster than Zeromus, faster than the Sealed Cave, faster than Asura. Those are all 66 to 69 agility. This spot has 89. You are not outspeeding that Wyvern. You best hope your agility anchoring is good enough, and you can get on battle speed 4, 5, or 6, go to Wyvern standard time, and hope, beyond hope, you can get a Starvel off.
This is, of course, also the spot with the largest amount of HP out of any of the boss spots in the game. So even if you manage to get through the opening Mega Nuke, you will be sitting there for a while weathering those nukes as you try to run that gigantic HP pool.
So we have some agility manipulation attempts going on here. Saradin trying to make Fusoya faster. This is going to have an adverse effect. It's actually going to be even more difficult right now with 25 agility versus 20 agility to get this Star Val off. I think the best way to approach this would be a Heroine Robe on Rosa, the Adamant armor switching to Kain, going down to battle speed 6. Kain might be fast enough, relative agility to Fusoya, with Rosa also acting potentially fast enough to get a Star Val off here. It's a very niche situation, and one of the few times you would ever be looking to remove an Adamant armor from a Cecil. Saradin did put the crystal ring on that Cecil to try to make him a little bit faster. He's now going to be somewhere around 45 agility, I think, to Fu's 20, which is still only going to be relative agility 2. I don't know that there's enough actors to get this Star Val off, even on battle speed 6.
Cecil does get the Star Val off. Rosa gets the Star Val off. Will we see any more before the Mega Nuke goes off? We will not.
Yeah, but 2 is good enough because the counter nukes, or excuse me, the regular nukes that come out, the way that those are going to be handled is they are a fixed damage, or fixed roll, if you will. Now, there is a bit of variability to that where you will end up with nukes that can do between like 400 and 1200 damage, but they're not going to be 2,000 to 3,000 or 4,000 damage. So the hard part is done for Saradin. The annoying part is there's still 65,000 health here.
And on battle speed 6, no less. We will be sitting here for a little bit.
Yeah, this is one of those things where it's like, oh good, I didn't die immediately. Oh darn, I'm still going to be here for 3 more minutes.
We do see Cecil dealing enough damage here that we may not be here quite as long as we might otherwise fear. First nuke comes out and hits Fu, who has just gotten back off the ground.
Well, Fusoya's tired. He needed a power nap.
And I'm sure the rest of the party can mop up without him anyway. Second nuke comes out, hits Kain.
Yeah, looks like Kane's life total has betrayed him.
Yeah, we can see that the damage values here would not be much of a problem should those happen to hit Cecil or Rosa. It's just that hitting the party members that are just come back from their naps is a little bit problematic.
Although that was a pretty high roll on Rosa, all things considered. You would expect her to dodge a few more rolls on that nuke. But yeah, the nuke hitting for over 1,300 damage on Rosa there. But does get a life 2 off on Kain. That's going to bring him back to full HP, 2,900. So we'll be safe from at least 1, maybe even 2 of those nukes from Wyvern. So this fight well in hand for Saradin, made the necessary adjustments, and we'll be through it eventually.
In the meanwhile, Xenocat has been cleaning up the lower part of the moon and has just found the pink tail, and is now all set to resume checking whatever else they feel like checking, presumably the Crystal Sword altar.
Yeah, going to find that second Crystal Sword, one would assume. Probably go to Cave Bahamut as well. I think both runners are going to be destined for Keyless Tower in order to get through this. The question is there enough time for Saradin to do all those Earth checks and to do them in the right order to catch up to the Earth advantage that Xenocat currently has?
And on the other side, will Wyvern pose enough of a problem for Xenocat to possibly make up some time in the other direction as well?
That's also a very good point because Xenocat, much like Saradin, they're both rocking non-traditional anchors, meaning that they are running around with someone who is not at 4, 6, 8 agility. So this Wyvern is potentially terrifying. Xenocat, I think with that Palom, is going to actually have a harder time because that Palom now is going to be somewhere around 23 or 24 agility, whereas that Fusoya on Saradin's side, sitting at 20, actually is a small advantage for him in that spot where he was able to get to enough relative agility on his team to get a Starveil up, actually on 2 party members.
Saradin is through the Wyvern fight. We are about to see who our other resident of the Giant tonight is.
I just wanted to say, if Saradin had swag walked after that Wyvern, I would have given them the biggest hug, of course, with permission, and just said, "You are the the peak performance, the peak performer in Free Enterprise." That would have been the coolest swag walk ever. But I don't blame him one bit for saving. I also would have saved.
And we do just find the Baron Guards, another effectively free fight, as these are not boss enemies. You can use whatever statuses you want on them.
Yeah, coffins. Yep, coffins, hourglasses. The mute bells are nice because they stop the piggies, they stop the sizes. So a lot of ways to get through this fight. Looks like the conventional stone play here are going to come out from Fusoya. If this were me, Fusoya would miss this stone even in the middle, but I'm sure Saradin's Fusoya will be better than mine and hit this first try. And there it is.
Yeah, Fusoya's performance is rock solid here. We do get a character check, so we may... There is a chance that we'll see Saradin pick up someone here as purely as an anchor, considering what we just went through. That is a duplicate Sid.
Yep, that is our one dupe in the seed. Also makes a great anchor. So if Saradin wants to pick up that Sid, could probably get rid of Fusoya at this point, and really wouldn't be any worse for wear, because this is a Zerker party for Zeromus. But that is objective number 3 for Saradin complete. But Saradin says, "I would like to keep my Fusoya, thank you very much." So now the question is, where does Saradin go from here? Has all the levels and all the power in the world? Do we get the Feymarch checks because everything is effectively free and there's 2 of them? Do we get the Sealed Cave because it's an objective? What is the play from Saradin? And it looks like we are getting objective first. I like this very much from Saradin. Chase your freebies, chase your objectives. Saradin doing exactly that. Meanwhile, Xenocat crunching that Asura. Quad 9s from Edge, 6,000 to 7,000 from Crystal Sword Cecil. Ooh.
And there's the reset. This does mean that Xenocat is done with the moon, and I expect that we are going to see them also immediately head to the Giant, which is exactly what we are seeing.
Yep, definitely makes a lot of sense from a routing perspective. And this is going to be another one of those key moments in this seed is, does Xenocat now have the agility situation and the setup to get through this? I did see chat mentioning that Xenocat may have found a cursed ring. I personally didn't see that, but if there's a cursed ring, that will solve that problem for Xenocat. Especially on that Palom, he'll be somewhere around 8 or 9 agility. That Wyvern fight will be easy breezy. So it looks like we have Saradin heading down that Luca cave, nearly at the bottom already to fight the boss down here. Going to pick up...
the Legend Sword, if I remember correctly.
Yep, the Legend Sword here, not going to be required. Again, probably not going to see a forge or anything like that. but going to take care of this sealed cave, get objective 4 on the board, and will then be just a barren castle behind, as well as some other checks, but objective-wise, just a barren castle behind. Which we know is through that Val in the Feymarch.
Alright, Xenocat coming up on the Wyvern fight. Expect that we're going to see a nearly immediate reset here.
Yeah, unless Palom has that cursed ring on, we might see a very quick Mega Nuke here. There is a very
There it is, and there's the reset.
So this becomes interesting. Does Xenocat have a setup for this? Checking the agility, I think that was 60 and 56 on Rosa and Edge. That might be enough. Taking the Murasame off as well. The Murasame reduces agility by 5. So that Edge now at 61 agility, I think. That's a lot, y'all. Might have just enough to squeeze this out, even with an 89 agility element spot. So I really like that quick on their feet from Xenocat to go through and get that Murasame removed from the Edge.
Okay, take 2. Will Edge be fast enough to pull this off? That is a yes.
Well,
and only Edge.
Well, but one is better than none. Also, Cecil, hello? Cecil just dodged 3 rolls. Yeah, okay. Well done, buddy. So, yeah, that's a cool little trick that Cecil just did, which was called, I don't care about your Mega Nuke, I'm just going to face tank it. Now, I know that Xenocat also has Artemis arrows that they picked up. I forget from where exactly, but there were Artemis arrows somewhere, which could help expedite this Wyvern fight if they use them. We do also see a reflected nuke from Wyvern missing, so probably targeted that Cecil with the Adamant armor on. Yeah.
Yeah, chat points out.
Pretty nice.
Yeah, chat points out the Artemis arrows are from the dolls in Feymarch.
Ah. It's too hard to remember where all of that is.
Well, there are 28 spots to keep track of. It's unless you're paying extremely close attention, it's gonna be hard to keep track of them all. That is a quad 9 shot from Rosa.
Yep. That's damage.
In the meantime, it looks like Saradin is electing to do Dwarf Castle after having completed the sealed cave. And Wyvern is down on Xenocat's side.
Yeah, very quickly through that Wyvern. Job very well done by Xenocat there. And meanwhile, Saradin going to be playing with this this water hag here in Dwarf Castle. Going to see the Edge. Probably not taking Edge at this point. Says no to Edge. Going to fight this water hag. Receive what was this the Adamant Rock? I believe for the other half of Forge.
Yes.
So I don't think we're going to see Saradin in Forge either. Maybe I will be surprised. But both of them, both are runners with Crystal Sword in hand when completing the Forge. Probably going to fade that. The question becomes, where does Saradin go next? Does Keyless Tower come into play? Does the Feymarch come into play? Where does he go?
And we, of course, do know at this point that Keyless Tower holds the rest of the progression.
Yep, everybody's favorite. Keyless Tower.
Okay, Saradin now through the Water Hag fight. Xenocat coming up on the Baron Guards. Also doing the mute, although by spell from Rosa in this case, which makes perfect sense.
Yeah, this is again a fight where those mute knives are going to come in handy here. Lots of damage coming out from Edge, and then of course there's Crystal Sword Cecil, just doing Crystal Sword Cecil things, but tons and tons of damage coming out. Is still rezzing that Palom, going to look to squeeze more XP on the kid. Over 2,000 health on Palom here is fantastic. Over 2,500 health. Rosa going to be over 2,700 by the end of this. We may actually see no nerfing even.
And we are seeing Saradin. We are seeing Saradin immediately head to Tower, Rukina's Tower.
So there is actually the potential here still for Saradin to get a little sidetracked. We know that the keyless tower play is going to lead to either the hook or the tower key. But if it leads to the hook and the rat tail gives the tower key, that would be an extra check that Saradin ends up making that we know isn't required. So this race is close enough where something like that could actually cause the difference. Or Saradin doing those checks and then doing, let's say, the king of summon monster spot instead of the queen first. This is still very tight. I think Xenocat has a small advantage. It may have flipped from what was early on like a half check advantage for Saradin, I think has flipped by virtue of that Crystal Sword Cecil. But again, Saradin found an Adamant armor and a Crystal Sword on the moon. So that advantage did not last all that long. It's very tough to see who's in the lead right now.
Saradin finding Mylon Z at the top of the tower. And Xenocat now also arriving at tower by virtue of being the last check left available to them.
Yeah, this Mylon Z gonna have a really bad day. 2 hits from Crystal Sword Cecil and this is over. Looks like Saradin taking some actions with some other folks. This was one of those situations where I'm a huge fan of just Zerk up Crystal Sword Cecil. Save animation time, save everything like that, and just kind of go bop bop. And Crystal Sword Cecil's really good at bopping. There is the hook. So that means that the tower key comes from the rat tail, which may end up driving Saradin back to this tower, which is honestly bad news, but very trolly on the layout as well. Again, shoutouts to Neobari. You put stuff everywhere. Keyless Tower, the bottom of the moon, the Feymarch, lots of power to go with it, but the key item distribution just screams 28 out of 28, 17 out of 17, etc. Oh, and the super cannon is an objective. What am I saying? We need that tower key. It's not just Baron Castle we need to do.
Okay, where is Saradin going? They are indeed leaving the end of the round. I expect that this is going to be, well, we need to pick up the hovercraft, of course, but we're going to immediately see both of the tails turned in here. Well, maybe... Yes. Yes, both of the tails are objectives.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense, because you also think at this point, does the rat tail gate the rest of my progression? And as far as Saradin's going to feel like, the rat tail may very well. It could be rat tail to tower key, you know, and go from there. So the interesting thing here is, you know, what checks is Saradin going to make along the way? We know which one Xenocat's going to do, and that's literally everything that's left. It's going to be that keyless tower to the rat tail, to the tower key, but that is going to complete go mode once Xenocat is there. So I do think Xenocat now is ahead, up a Val fight and a doll's fight, excuse me. Had to think of the other boss.
The time difference we're seeing here is the amount of time that Saradin is going to take to clear Baron Castle once they actually find the Baron Key puts them at a bit of a disadvantage here.
That's absolutely true as well. Yeah, there is the Baron Castle play that still has to be made in order to liberate. So yeah, I think barring disaster here, that Xenocat has started to close the door here for a potential comeback from Saradin. Really highlighted by what, about an hour ago, fishing in Eblin. The adamant armor and the crystal sword showing up, just allowing Xenocat to just fly through the rest of the overworld and the underworld. Also getting through that wyvern in 2 attempts, as opposed to, I believe, 3. And also being able to just get through the moon faster since they had Crystal Sword Adamant Cecil from the jump instead of waiting 2 or 3 spots in. So that early fishing expedition really coming up huge for Xenocat.
And Xenocat has now turned in their tails, acquiring another Adamant armor, of course. But Xenocat is now in go mode, with only the super cannon left to achieve.
Ah, pesky go modes. Who needs them? Just go fight the big bad final boss now. It'll be fine. Spoiler alert. It wouldn't be fine.
What do you mean I can't hit anything?
It's a rite of passage, though. Trust me when I tell you. I've been there and done that.
Yeah, chat asking, is this 3 adamant armors? In total, counting the one that we found in Castle Eblin, yes, that is 3 adamant armors we have seen so far.
And we're not done yet. There is a super cannon check that could yield a 4th.
We know that this will not be a key item at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
A black shirt.
Well, it's body armor.
Saradin heading into the Fame Arch, which is the correct move to make here. With what we know. We'll see him pick the correct fight.
Well, interestingly enough, I think the correct fight is the dolls, because that gets you the pass. And then the Baron key, I believe was next. Oh no, excuse me, the Baron key gave the pass, didn't it? So I recall you saying it was a free pass.
The dolls here gave Artemis arrows.
Right.
That is the last objective for Xenocat. Xenocat now has the crystal and is presumably feeling ready to take on Zeromus.
Yeah, so let's just highlight this real quick. That is 17 out of 17, 28 out of 28, with a giant clear in an hour and 35 minutes. That is a combination of 2 very important things. 1 is Cecil with a Holy Sword and an Adamant armor, and 2 is Xenocat is a darn good player in this game. Better to be good and lucky than either one of those 2 individually. Xenocat hit the goods from Eblin Castle, and also is quite good at Free Enterprise.
And Saradin, meanwhile, as Xenocat presumably leaves to head to Troya in order to turn in the pass, has chosen the Val fight and is about to get a Baron key.
Yeah, so Saradin going to be the rest of this Val fight.
Which is now over.
Which is over, and a Baron liberation behind Xenocat. So realistically, we're looking at... I don't know if a wipe is possible for Xenocat with those levels, with those HP totals. But that's what it would take at this point for Saradin to be back in this. But S-Grunt, I see some Z flags in chat. And it is not even 7 o'clock my time out here on the West Coast.
It has been exhausting to keep track of everything, but I don't think they're asking us to go to sleep here. So, Zeromus, being the final fight of the game, we can't exactly move Zeromus to another location, but we would still like to do something to randomize Zeromus, because what would be the fun in doing otherwise? So, in lieu of moving Zeromus, we've given Z 550 or more costumes, if you will, to decorate the final fight with. And so it is this point where we have a traditional question to ask. Whose butt are we going to kick tonight? Are they cute? Does it even have a butt? And many other such questions.
Yeah, can it help me with my 401k?
Well, I'm Canadian, I don't get a 401k.
That is fair, that is fair. But let us see. We are going to get a Crystal Throne by Xenocat very shortly. We are going to have a Saradin making their way through that liberation of Baron. That crystal pops out, the true colors are emerging, and here we go. Grrr. It's kind of like Dr. Lugia, except way more intimidating. It's the inventory boss. Fantastic.
The most infamous of bosses.
This is the final boss of the game. It's very appropriate. I don't think it has a butt, though. I don't think it's cute.
It can certainly be a butt, but it doesn't have a butt.
Yeah, it certainly is not going to help me with anything financial related, because it means I forgot to sell anything if this is happening. So yeah, I think this is like, it's a 10 out of 10 butt from design standpoint, but it doesn't do any of the requisite things we want.
There's the first big bang.
I'm honestly surprised that Xenocat is able to deal this much damage when that inventory miss is sitting on 80 adamant armors. That is a lot of physical defense. I'm really impressed. I have trouble enough dealing damage to 1 adamant armor. But we do see the Zerkers just chugging away. Nearly 10,000 damage around from Cecil and Edge here. Over 8,000 damage from Cecil. Please, relax, sir. We do see a second shake there. Will we see a second Big Bang? Frankly, it doesn't matter if we do or not. Again, with these HP totals, this fight is effectively finished. Getting a Zerk on Rosa, who deals nearly 3,000. No Zerk on Palom, unfortunately, but definitely understandable as well from Xenocat's side, as you don't want to cause any issues downstream. We might get a swag nuke for the finish here from Palom, though, not leaving the kid out, while Saradin does get their crystal and is in go mode as well. Oh, and just like that, inventory boss, bye-bye. GG's to Xenocat, who now moves to 4-0 in the Crystal Ring group, taking a commanding lead in that group and looking very, very good for moving directly on to the brackets without having to play in. And we will see if we can get Xenocat in for an interview. And meanwhile, we have Saradin turning in the pass, making his way down, going to play around with this inventory mess as well. Nearly side-by-side Zeromus fights. Again, really, the difference came down to Xenocat got that Crystal Sword Adamant Cecil online first, and that dinging in my ear means we are joined by said Xenocat. GG's to you.
Thank you.
So, 2 words. You tell me the importance of these words to you. Evelyn Castle.
You know, that was very important. I honestly think that's I mean, having not talked that much in the race room about what happened. I think that's probably what saved me there, with the adamant armor and that crystal sword.
Yeah, we were kind of talking and wondering who would fish first, if either of you would fish at all. Saradin did a very early twin harp check, got that darkness crystal, got that Fusoya, and it really pushed him away from needing to fish. You had, interestingly enough to me, faded harp forever and a day.
I'd already done the Tower of Zot. Like, I made my early Zot play and found my Cecil there. Like, why would I go do Twin Harp? It's kind of isolated, you know?
Definitely very fair. So
I was gonna check it before I went to the moon.
Of course. So take us through, because that was a very sketchy early Zot dive with Ogopogo showing up there.
Yeah,
you handled it really well, but what were you thinking when you saw Ogo?
I was like, well, I have no white mage. I did not heal before this fight, so everyone's taken a little bit of damage from that flame, from the flame dog that I hit on the way up. But I was like, well, I have protect rings equipped. I've got an Artemis bow on Edward, so I'm decently fast anchored. I can probably get through this. I've just got to jump and shoot and bluff up a bit, and then throw out some high power Ice 2s and heal with my Cure 2 pots as necessary. I mean, that's what they're there for.
Yeah, you made the best use of those 10 Cure 2s. Maybe some of the best usage of those 10 Cure 2s we've seen all tournament, based on how it turned out. So a job very well done with not just the seed in general, but especially that early challenging Zot dive.
Yeah, my thought was, I think I have just enough power to get through this Tower of Zot, and I want to route the Tower of Zot right into Baron Inn to get the 3 characters there. That's just... because I want more characters, and I don't really want to keep Edward for the rest of the seed, unless I get a spoon. Maybe then, but in this seed the spoon was just a little bit too late, I think.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. The spoon, while it would have been nice, I think you did just fine with Cecil and Edge. The last major thing I wanted to ask you about, and I apologize, Escrum, for taking up a lot of the mic time here. Yeah, 65,000 HP of Jerkbird. That Wyvern, your thoughts?
Yeah, that was a little annoying, especially since I'd basically been YOLOing my anchoring the whole seed. But it's fine. You know, you can kind of get away with it when you have a Heroine Robe and 2 Adamant Armors equipped.
Yeah,
So,
you handled it well. You got through it in 2 attempts. It was great.
2 of the Artemis arrows that I got from, I think, the dolls?
Yep.
Yes, the dolls.
Yep.
Yeah, those Artie arrows were great. Rosa was fantastic. She did so much work. Could not have done it without those Artie arrows. I mean, I could have. It would have been much slower.
Right. Escrum, I apologize again. Questions for Xenocat?
I think that about covers the major things that were on my mind with this seed. So I believe I'm good.
All right, well, we do see Brock's on Saradin's side, so again, y'all, that's how close this race was. Less than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Everyone doing everything. Wonderful competition between you two.
Doing everything definitely felt bad.
So, Xenocat, you do move to 4-0. That puts you in a commanding position in the Crystal Ring group. And actually, one thought just before that, GG's to Saradin, who has finished in an official time of 1:45.38, 5 minutes and 11 seconds behind our winner Xenocat. But get your GGs out in chat for Saradin as well, and we'll see if we can get him in for an interview once finished with Xenocat, our winner this evening. So you are 4-0, put you in a commanding spot in your group. When is the next time we can see you, and how comfortable, how confident are you feeling now, given that 4-0 record?
I mean, I'm feeling fairly comfortable at this point, because at this point I'm like, you know, I can go 4-1 and be okay. If that's okay. I'd be fine with 4-1. But I'm definitely not going to expect my match against Silverfire, which is this Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. That's definitely not a gimme. Silverfire is very good, and so that's going to be an exciting matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely going to have to tune in for that one on Sunday. And I know I will be there cheering on the seed. because much like this one, we got to cheer for the seed.
I mean, of course you do. I mean, I would have it no other way. Give me the root seeds, please. I know how to handle them.
Yeah, we did allude to your Lit 3 expertise, maybe coming into play and helping you out with Wyvern and some other such things. So, GG again to you, and the floor is yours. Let us know anything on your mind with the seed, anything you want to share, any call outs you want to make, anyone you want to see in brackets if you make it.
Oh gosh, I have not thought that far ahead.
Start the drama now.
No, I can't do that. I have to go against like Ogre X group, I think. And they're scary. Everyone in that group is terrifying. Like, that group is just terrifying. I don't want to go up against the runner-up or the winner from that group. But I guess, I mean, I do for the sake of making brackets, I guess. But they're both very scary. They'll both be very scary runners, I'm sure, because everyone in that group is terrifying. But yeah, no other shoutouts I want to make. Thank you, Nibari, for rolling this monstrosity. Thank you, JMac, for pushing all of the buttons. I'm sure you got to push every single one. Thank you, Possum, Orpheus, and Escrunt for doing, I'm sure, a wonderful job on comms. And I look forward to watching this race back.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Xenocat, once again, our winner this evening. Moving to that record of 4-0 in the Crystal Ring group. And I do believe we are now joined by our runner-up this evening, Saradin. GG's to you, Saradin.
Thanks. This was an interesting one.
Yeah, definitely a lot to play through, a lot to kind of digest with this seed. You know, some of the highlights that we kind of pointed out. Number one, that Wyvern, for both of you, got the better of you at least once. What were you feeling? How was your mindset? What was your approach to that fight?
Yeah, that one was pretty rough. I took 3 wipes on that before I got the agility set up right to get off a Starveil. If I hadn't gotten it that time, I was probably going to leave and figure out how to get the anchoring set up correctly. But yeah, once I got stuff off on Rosa and Cecil, it was fine.
Absolutely. The early Twin Harp, something that a lot of folks would not do. You went straight for it. You got that darkness crystal. When you got up to the moon and saw that Fusoya, were you immediately like, oh hey, I'm gonna go do those warlocks with the mute bells I bought and just go clear the moon? Was there ever a choice or a thought that you were like, maybe I'm gonna do the rest of Earth? Like, kind of take us through that decision as well.
Yeah, that was definitely something I considered. I had bought the mute belt specifically in case warlocks presented themselves as an option for a grind early. And I figure against Xenocat, there are a better runner than I am, and I needed to do something risky there. And I felt that the early full moon clear was going to be it. Unfortunately, there wasn't really much there other than that. I think it was Pigtail at the Mazamune altar. So didn't really pay off this time, but I stand by the decision.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Again, rando gonna rando. There are no right or wrong decisions. There are simply ones that work out better in a given seed versus another one. You played a great race. You did basically everything correct. You know, we even called out some things like weaking the Lunar Gauntlet instead of nuking it. I thought that was really heads up. A lot of folks don't make that play, and it's just more efficient. So you made a lot of really wonderful plays throughout, and I really think you should be proud of how you played. You know, you didn't get the victory, but that was more of just Xenocat being ever so slightly more efficient, not because you played poorly at all.
Yeah, no, I'm happy with how I played that seed. Just some things didn't work out.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving to 2-1 in the group, that does put you a little behind the 8 ball for at least first place in the group, but certainly not out of it for second or third. How are you feeling right now for your chances to at least make the play-in. Do you have any upcoming races that you're more concerned about than others, or anything that you're, really looking forward to as some hype matchups?
Yeah, I am racing against Silverfire on Saturday night at 9 Eastern. And then Tybalt is next Wednesday, I think. Those are my last two. And if I win either of those, that locks me for a playoff spot at least. So feeling okay about that.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean that's a great place to be in. Then basically win one and at least partially in controlling your own destiny. So that still puts you in a great place. Very happy to hear that. S-Grunt, I do want to make sure, are there any questions that you have for our runner-up this evening, Saradin?
Once again, you have pretty much covered anything that I would like to ask.
Fair enough. Well, Saradin, the floor is yours if there's anyone you want to call out, if there's anything you're specifically looking forward to. The floor is yours, and we will let you, have your moment here.
Nothing much, but thanks to the Restream team and the commentators for putting on a good show. It's always fun to watch.
All right. Well, we do appreciate you putting on a heck of a show in conjunction with Xenocat. One more super huge GG out to you, Saradin. Thank you again for that show. It was wonderful to watch.
Thanks.
All right, folks. And with that, we do want to give one more huge thank you to our friends here at RPG Limit Break for letting us host this fantastic matchup between Saradin and Xenocat. Please make sure you give both of them a follow. Click that link in chat, hit that follow button. Make sure you only hit it once, not twice, because you just want to follow. You don't want to unfollow. Also, please make sure you give a huge follow over to Neobari and JMac behind the scenes, both restreaming and tracking this evening, and my fellow co-commentator S-Grund for a fantastic job on their first time on comms. You seem like a hardened veteran already, S-Grund.
This is certainly not the first time that I've done comms in general, but it is the first time I've been in the booth for Free Enterprise. So let's also not forget to give a follow and thanks to my co-commentator, Hoss Morpheus here.
Well, thank you so much for that. I do appreciate it. So this is it for the Free Enterprise portion of today's programming on RPG Limit Break. However, if you think during tournament season that we are done with Free Enterprise, you, my friends, are sorely mistaken, as we have more matchups coming up for you. We are headed over to Free Enterprise 2 for a tournament match between Dr. Cossack and Scythe Marshal. Some wonderful commentary from Black Ice and Hupfin on that one. So please make sure, y'all, as we go over there, no spoilers, because there are a lot of folks over there who probably want to watch this race. You will get the bonk. So one more time, thank you, friends at RPG Limit Break. Thank you so much for letting us host this wonderful race. And for S-Grunt and Neobari and everyone else, JMac on the Restream team, my name is Possum Morpheus. Thank you so much for having us one last time. Enjoy the upcoming race on Free Enterprise 2.
Have a good night.